Welcome back, everyone. Today we are diving deep into a topic that, well, I think a lot of people find themselves navigating, second marriages.
Mhm.
And let's be honest, you wouldn't be here unless you were hoping to make this one last. Right.
Right.
Well, you've come to the right place.
Yeah.
We're going to be dissecting a fascinating chapter
Okay.
from a book all about building a successful second marriage. And trust me, this goes way beyond the usual cliches.
It's true. What's so compelling about this chapter is that it doesn't shy away from the real challenges,
hmm
but it also provides, a framework for overcoming them, a sort of hopeful realism, as the author calls it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hopeful realism. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
I have to share this anecdote about Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson.
Oh, okay.
They've been married for over 35 years and are still going strong.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing when you consider that statistically, second marriages have a 60% divorce rate,
Wow.
and third marriages are even higher at 70%.
It is a great example of how defying those odds is possible. But it's important to remember that Hanks and Wilson didn't just get lucky, right?
Right.
They consciously chose to define their partnership differently.
And that seems to be a recurring theme in the chapter. It's not about repeating past patterns, right?
Right.
It's about intentionally creating something new.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does that actually play out in a real relationship?
Yeah.
What are some of the pitfalls that people stumble into even when they think they're doing everything right?
Well, the chapter starts by addressing something we all grapple with:
Okay.
unrealistic expectations. It's easy to enter a second marriage hoping it'll be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the first one wasn't.
Right.
But the author suggests a fascinating exercise.
Okay.
He calls it hopeful realism, where couples each list their top 3 expectations
Right.
for the marriage, rank them by importance, and then, here's the key, discuss potential challenges for each one.
Okay, so it's not about lowering your expectations. It's about acknowledging that challenges are inevitable and having a plan to address them.
Right.
I can see how that would be so helpful in preventing those early disappointments.
Exactly. It's about proactive communication, not just assuming everything will magically fall into place.
So what about finances? I mean, let's be real. Money issues can be a major source of stress in any relationship,
Yeah.
but especially in second marriages,
Hmm.
where you might have debt from a previous marriage, alimony, or child support to consider.
Absolutely. And the chapter doesn't sugarcoat this at all. It dives right into the potential for financial conflict,
Yeah.
even highlighting a rather relatable example of a man who had to put his dream of owning a beachfront home on hold because of his wife's financial obligations from her previous marriage.
Ouch, right.
Ouch, right.
Yeah, talk about a buzzkill. So what's the solution? Prenup, separate bank accounts.
While those tools can be helpful in some cases, the chapter emphasizes the importance of something much more fundamental: open and honest communication about finances before walking down the aisle.
Makes sense. But how do you actually have that conversation in a way that doesn't feel awkward or confrontational?
That's where the hopeful realism concept comes back into play. It's about approaching these conversations as a team,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on shared goals and values. The author suggests couples create a financial vision board together, outlining their dreams and aspirations.
I love that idea. It shifts the focus from dividing resources to building something together. It's almost like creating a shared financial roadmap for the future.
Precisely. And this ties into another point the chapter raises: the ease of divorce. Because you've been through it once, ending a second marriage might feel less daunting, almost like a familiar path.
It's like you know the exit route exists,
Right.
so it's easier to just bail when things get tough.
Exactly. And that's why the chapter emphasizes the importance of actively building resilience into the relationship. It's about viewing challenges as opportunities to grow stronger, not reasons to give up.
So how do you actually do that? What are
Yeah.
some tangible ways to build that resilience?
One suggestion the chapter offers is to establish a relationship check-in routine. It could be a weekly dinner date where you set aside dedicated time to connect, talk about what's working, what's not, and any concerns or frustrations you might have.
That's such a great idea. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day chaos of life and forget to prioritize that intentional connection time with your partner.
Absolutely. And those check-ins don't have to be, super formal or intense.
Right.
It's more about creating a space for open communication and emotional intimacy.
Okay, so we've talked about unrealistic expectations, finances, and the ease of divorce. What's the next big challenge that the chapter addresses?
Well, this one is a bit more nuanced,
Okay.
but equally important.
Right.
Baggage from the past. We all carry it to some degree,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who doesn't have some leftover emotional baggage
Right.
from previous relationships? But how does that actually play out in a second marriage? Is it just about repeating past mistakes?
It can be, but it's often more subtle than that. The chapter dives into the psychology of attachment styles
Oh.
and how our past experiences can shape our expectations and behaviors in new relationships.
So it's not just about consciously avoiding the same mistakes. It's about understanding those deeper patterns and how they might be influencing our interactions with our partner.
Exactly. And that's where self-awareness becomes so crucial. The author suggests something called a relationship inventory, where you reflect on your past relationships and identify recurring patterns or themes.
Ooh, like a relationship audit.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
What kind of patterns would you be looking for?
Well, it could be anything from communication styles to conflict resolution strategies to ways of expressing affection.
Okay.
For example, maybe you tend to shut down emotionally during arguments,
Mm.
or maybe you have a hard time trusting your partner.
So once you've identified those patterns, then what? Do you just try to avoid them?
It's more about understanding the underlying reasons for those patterns and then working to shift them.
Okay.
And this often involves open and honest communication with your partner. It's about creating a safe space for vulnerability
Yeah.
where you can share those past experiences and how they might be affecting your present behavior.
So it's not about blaming each other for past hurts. It's about using that knowledge to build a stronger and healthier relationship moving forward.
Precisely. And sometimes that process might involve seeking professional help
Mm-hmm.
from a therapist who specializes in couples counseling. It's not a sign of weakness.
Right.
It's a sign of commitment to working through those deeper issues and building a truly solid foundation for the marriage.
Okay, let's tackle the elephant in the room.
Oh.
Blended families.
Okay.
It's one of the most common and often most complex dynamics in second marriages, especially if you have children from previous relationships.
Absolutely. And the chapter acknowledges that it can be a real minefield. You're dealing with different parenting styles,
Right.
step-parent, step-child relationships, navigating interactions with ex-partners. It's a lot to juggle.
It sounds like it's less about blending and more about trying to fit a bunch of mismatched puzzle pieces together.
That's a great analogy. And the chapter emphasizes that it's crucial to manage expectations realistically.
Okay.
Blended families don't just magically blend overnight. It takes time, patience, and a whole lot of communication.
So where do you even begin? What are some concrete steps couples can take to navigate this tricky terrain?
Well, the chapter stresses the importance of creating a unified front as a couple. It's about presenting a united message to the children, even if you don't agree on everything behind closed doors.
That makes sense. Kids can be incredibly perceptive,
Oh, yeah.
and they'll pick up on any cracks in the foundation, especially during times of transition.
Exactly. And this ties into the importance of setting clear boundaries and expectations for everyone involved, including ex-partners.
Ooh, that's a big one. How do you approach those conversations in a way that's constructive and not confrontational?
The chapter suggests using a technique called collaborative communication,
Okay.
which focuses on finding win-win solutions and prioritizing the well-being of the children.
So it's not about winning or losing. It's about working together as a team, even if that team includes exes.
Exactly. It's about putting the needs of the children first and creating a stable and supportive environment for everyone involved.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Unrealistic expectations, finances, the ease of divorce, past baggage, and blended families. What's the final pitfall that the chapter addresses?
This one might seem obvious,
Okay.
but it's easy to fall into the trap of relying solely on past experience. It's tempting to think, well, I've learned from my mistakes, so I'm good to go. But the chapter warns against this kind of overconfidence.
Because even if you've been married before, every relationship is unique.
Right. Precisely. And this new relationship deserves its own unique approach. The chapter emphasizes the importance of approaching your second marriage with a beginner's mind, ready to learn and adapt to this new dynamic with this particular person.
It's like hitting the reset button and saying, okay, I'm going to bring my wisdom and experience from the past,
Yeah.
but I'm also going to be open to new possibilities and ways of relating.
Exactly. It's about being curious, asking questions, and being willing to see things from your partner's perspective.
So it's not about being an expert on marriage. It's about being an expert on your partner and your relationship together.
And that's why the chapter so strongly recommends premarital counseling, even if you've been married before. It's not about starting the marriage with a checklist of past mistakes to avoid. It's about building a strong foundation for this specific relationship with this particular partner.
So it's not just about preventing problems. It's about proactively creating a shared vision for the future.
Absolutely. And that vision should include a plan for handling conflict constructively. The chapter talks about the importance of developing a conflict blueprint, where you discuss how you'll handle disagreements in a healthy and respectful way.
Okay, that's a fantastic idea. It's like creating a roadmap for navigating those inevitable bumps in the road instead of just reacting emotionally in the heat of the moment.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, not reactive, when it comes to conflict. And that leads into another important point: the need for ongoing communication and emotional connection.
So it's not just about having those big, serious conversations. It's about staying connected on a daily basis, even in small ways.
Absolutely. The chapter emphasizes the importance of creating rituals of connection, whether it's a nightly check-in before bed, a weekly date night, or even just sending each other a sweet text message during the day. It's those small gestures that help to maintain that emotional bond and keep the spark alive.
It's like those little deposits into the relationship bank account that add up over time.
Exactly. And those deposits can go a long way in preventing resentment and emotional distance from creeping in.
We've really unpacked a lot of practical advice and insights
Yeah.
from this chapter. It's been fascinating to go beyond the surface level assumptions about second marriages and delve into these evidence-based strategies for success.
Yeah, yeah. What stands out to you the most? What's resonating with
Mhm.
you from all of this?
For me, it's the emphasis on intentionality. It's not about just hoping for the best. It's about actively creating the kind of marriage you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's about approaching it as a conscious co-creation, a partnership built on shared values,
Yeah.
clear communication, and a willingness to do the work.
I love that. And it's so empowering, right? It means that we have more control over the success of our relationships than we might realize.
Absolutely. It's not about luck or fate. It's about making conscious choices and taking responsibility for our own happiness. And speaking of happiness, there's a quote from the chapter that really struck me. It says, "Happiness in a second marriage isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming the right person for each other."
That's such a powerful reminder. It's not about finding someone who completes you. It's about choosing to grow and evolve together.
And that evolution requires a willingness to be vulnerable, to communicate openly, and to embrace the inevitable challenges that come with any long-term relationship.
It's about seeing those challenges as opportunities for growth, for deepening your connection, and for creating something truly extraordinary together.
So before we wrap up,
Mhm.
I'd love to leave our listener with a thought-provoking question, something to ponder as they embark on their own second marriage journey.
I have just the one. It builds upon all the wisdom we've gleaned today. Imagine you could go back in time and give your past self one piece of advice about relationships. What would it be, and how might that advice shape your approach to your current or future marriage?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It really makes you reflect on the lessons you've learned along the way and how you can use those experiences to create a more fulfilling and joyful future.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that while we can't change the past, we can certainly learn from it and use those insights to inform our present and shape our future.
And that's a message of hope and empowerment that I think we can all take to heart.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the world of second marriages. I hope this conversation has given you some valuable tools and perspectives to create a lasting and fulfilling partnership.
Remember, a successful second marriage isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about learning, growing, and evolving together.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.